in order to do your homework assignment, you're going to have to draw a still life. Well, first you're going to have to do each one of these objects as individual shapes and then tone them using scientific lighting. But then you're going to have to create a still life using the four objects: a cone, a sphere, a cylinder, and a cube. And I think the best thing to do, if you have the space, is to do what I've done here and take a few sheets of paper and tape them together so you have a nice long area that you can draw a horizon line on, and that you can put your vanishing points on so that they are quite far apart. Because the farther apart the vanishing points are, the better off you will be in terms of getting objects that look like they're not distorted. So that would be the first part to do, is to tape down some white paper so that you can create a nice long horizon line and you should be able to see the horizon line here that I've drawn all along this page that we will use to put our vanishing points on. So once you've done that, then what you need to do is take your drawing paper and you're going to lay it on top of that horizon line page, and you're going to draw a horizon line on that page as well. So what we'll do is we'll tape this down with a couple pieces of tape so it doesn't move. And because you already have your horizon line on the other paper, you can use that horizon line to create your horizon line on your drawing paper. And you probably will have to take the drawing paper out of your drawing pad in order to do this carefully. So then it's a matter of figuring out where you want to put your objects and create your still life. Now the first thing I'm going to want to do is kind of get a fairly good idea of what my composition is going to look like. So I'm going to take a small piece of paper, any kind of scrap will do, and come up with a composition. What do I want this to look like? Because by doing this, you can, it'll give you a way of determining what the footprint for this still life is going to be like. Because it's really important that the footprint for each object, which is the amount of space it takes up on the floor, does not interrupt the footprint of another object. Because if you do that and you draw it that way, it's going to make the drawing look odd, and that you didn't really account for the amount of space that you would need if these things were real live objects. So I think that's what I want to do for my design. And the first thing I'm going to do on my page is I am going to create the footprint for each one of these objects before I start to do the perspective drawing. Now, I did say in class that if you felt you could do this without vanishing points, you're welcome to do that. But these drawings should be quite accurate, and it might be better for you to actually do these with the vanishing points. Since my cube is in the foreground, I have drawn my cube first on my drawing paper. And I know this is quite light, but you can see here is the footprint for my cube. And I have gone ahead and I have drawn the top of the cube. I haven't, the top sides of the cube. I haven't put the top in yet, but I will do that. But this gives me some idea now, looking at my drawing again, as to where I want to put the sphere and where I want to put the cone and where I want to put the cylinder. So based on my drawing, which I think you can see in the corner here, now I can decide that probably the base of my cone will be somewhere in here. And you can see that it's not going to violate the base of my cube. And I will put the cylinder base, which looks like it's set in from the base of the square. I'm probably going to start that somewhere in here and then bring that to the vanishing point. Once you've finished putting in the footprint and drawing in all your subjects, you should have a very light line drawing of your still life. And as you can see, I've erased all of the lines that I don't need because these are going to be solid forms, and you will be rendering these with using your toning methods that you learned earlier in previous classes. So looking at the drawing as it stands, you're going to have a highlight in this area on the sphere. You're going to have a highlight on this area on the cone. You're going to have the brightest light on the top edge of your cube. And then you will have a highlight on the rounded side of the cylinder. But then, once we've got that in, then we have to start thinking about where our shadows are going to fall. So the first thing I would do is get all your rendering done for each of the forms. And that means using the side of your pencil and remembering where your highlight has to be and starting to put in values. Start with a light value and work till you get a darker tone as you are rendering these objects. And don't forget, you're going to have some reflected light on the sphere, you're going to have some reflected light on the cone, and you're going to have some reflected light on the cylinder. And by the time you're finished, we should not see any lines at all. We should just have values. Lines that bleed into values and are no longer lines, but just the edge of a value. And remember, if you go outside the line, you can use your eraser guide or any straight edge piece of paper to protect the drawing, and then clean up any edge that you have, just like you did when you did the tonal squares. But the whole objective here is to get a nice three-dimensional form that defines each one of these objects. Additionally, remember to put something under your hand while you're working, so that you don't pick up a carbon from the pencil onto your hands and transfer it to the drawing itself. You want your drawing to be as clean as possible and to have only graphite in the areas where there's required to be. So at this point, you can see that I have shaded in the cone in the background. You'll see we have a distinct highlight, and then gradually from both sides of the highlight, we blend a gradated tone to the left and to the right. And you'll notice on the right-hand side, it's a much darker shadow, and if you look very closely, you'll see that there's just a little bit of reflected light on this edge, that the edge is not quite as dark as the section right next to it. But you'll also notice that even though it's a reflected light in that area, it is still dark compared to the rest of the cone. And so that's all you need to do now, is to do the same thing with your other objects, so that eventually you will end up with a drawing that looks like this.